photograph above the fireplace just here. So that shows the pillar where it stood on O'Connell Street. The year of that photograph, it's 1966. Anybody know what that was the 50th anniversary of? Rising, exactly. The 1916 Rising. And unfortunately, that anniversary meant for poor old Nelson that he wasn't going to make it through the end of the year. We have a black and white photograph just to the side here. It shows how he was toppled from his perch, apparently leading Dubliners to dub that which was left the half Nelson. But it wasn't there for long, right? This stump, and the Irish Army were sent in a couple of days later to blow up the rest of it, to clear the way for traffic along O'Connell Street. And in doing so, they definitely closed the door on an era of Dublin life. It had been there for generations. It has since been replaced by the spire that you'll see in the bottom photograph and recognise from today. When you walk past that, that's the exact spot where it used to stand. 3 years before all that drama, over here we had a very, very important visitor here in Dublin. We have an Irish Times front page here from the day that President John F. Kennedy arrived to visit us. A momentous occasion. It says here he was welcomed like a homecoming hero. A lot of Irish people kind of felt this great affinity with this new Irish-American President of the United States, so there was huge excitement about the trip. The streets were lined to greet him when he arrived. The following day, he became the first man to ever address both houses of our government together in one room, with a black and white photograph of the address in the corner over there. He gave a fantastic speech that day. He quoted a number of Irish writers in it. Kind of important for us here in the museum, though, is the fact that while he was giving that fantastic speech, he was actually standing at this exact lectern that's in the corner of the room, so you can see it in the picture as well. It's not really a lectern at all this year. Anybody have any idea what its true use is? Music stand, yes. We don't really use lecterns here in our government buildings. The politicians just stand where they are. And I reckon it was probably a last-minute organisational nightmare when somebody realised they didn't have one for the president. Thankfully, they managed to borrow this one from the head of the Irish Army Band. That's how we've kind of ended up with it today. So it's going into the 1970s then. We had another really, really important visitor in 1979. They're kind of over in this corner. Anyone any idea who it was? Pope. Exactly. Pope John Paul II. Apologies, I think I might have deafened you there. Pope John Paul II came to visit us in 1979. And at the time of his visit, about 91% of Irish people were going to Mass every week. So you can imagine the excitement that the trip created. He gave this papal mass in the Phoenix Park while he was here, and it was attended by over 1 million people. An impressive figure on its own, but even more so when you remember that the entire population of Ireland at that time was around 3 million. So a whole third of them in the park with the Pope. It's a wonder the island didn't sort of tip over. We have some things here with a couple of people's memories from the day, if anyone is interested. But to give you guys, I guess, a bit of an idea how big an impact that trip had on public thought, public culture, popular thought and popular culture at the time. We were having a baby boom around the same time as the Pope's visit. There are about 620,000 boys and girls who were born at that time, and they're part of the first generation that saw a rise in our population since the famine of the 1840s, so definitely kind of needed and wanted. But all of the kids that were born around that time, they're collectively known here as the Pope's children, in reference to his visit. Anyone any idea what the most popular boy's name was?
John Paul.
John Paul, exactly. Moving into the 1980s, unfortunately there was an economic slump that led again to rising levels of unemployment. Again, we saw waves of emigration of younger generations especially. It wasn't all bad though. At this time, Ireland was winning the Eurovision Song Contest like there was no tomorrow. Johnny Logan was rocking it for us. But back here in Dublin, I guess with all of that kind of economy stuff going on, civic pride kind of reached rock bottom by the middle of the 1980s. Dublin Corporation recognised that, and they thought that something should really be done to cheer everyone up here. So what they did was, they basically decided that the city was 1,000 years old. I say decided, quite pointedly. Dublin was, as I said, in next door, founded by the Vikings, and the dates are a little bit wishy-washy. But they chose 988, and you can see a plate up in the middle of the wall from the year. Memorabilia like that, and there's a milk bottle on the mantelpiece, were given out to Dubliners to mark the occasion. They had a handsome logo More importantly, I think, though, they had a catchy slogan that year, which was Dublin's great in '88. Simplicity is best, I guess. It caught on, and despite people maybe being a little bit cynical at the beginning of these so-called millennial celebrations, by the end of the year it actually had gone a long way to cheering people up, getting them excited about the city, and getting things moving a little bit. And I suppose in that way we can see it a little bit as a sign of things to come, because as we move down into the 1990s, things start to speed up here in Dublin. Now this aerial view of the city here in the centre, that was taken in 1991, the year that Dublin was awarded the European Capital of Culture Award, a great honour. It's a fantastic view of the city, that picture, but it's especially cool because that photograph was actually taken just before all the cranes moved into the Docklands area. So this area here in the centre, that area there, has since been completely transformed. You can see it here, it's got full of warehouses, it's part of the port. It is now full of modern architecture, home to our convention centre, our National Theatre, and a huge part of that redevelopment happened during something called the Celtic Tiger here in Ireland. Have you guys heard of the Celtic Tiger? Heard rumours maybe, yeah? For anybody who has not heard of it, the Celtic Tiger is the name we give to a very giddy period in our history in the 1990s, where for 7 consecutive years our economy grew by 7%. So you can imagine how giddy it really was. Unfortunately, in hindsight, it seems that growth might have gone to people's heads a little bit, and it didn't continue growing endlessly. And what we have in the room is an artwork, sorry, speak around you guys, it's made by an Irish artist, and she's made it to symbolise the Celtic Tiger for you guys. So her name is Caroline McCarthy, the artist. Now, any of you, any idea what it is made of? Oh, well, okay. You've done your homework, good man. Go on, let us know then, what's it made of? Monster Munch, exactly. Has everybody heard of Monster Munch? Yes? Oh yes. So for any of you guys who come from countries that aren't blessed with this lovely packet of crisps, that is Monster Munch, okay? They've got a texture kind of like Cheetos, but they're pickled onion flavour, delicious. And what Caroline McCarthy put into this cabinet for us is an entire packet of gold-plated Monster Munch. I guess to try and make the point that the Celtic Tiger might have been golden and sparkling on the outside, but on the inside it was really a little bit rubbishy and definitely ready to crumble. They're kind of cute in the box. Cool, guys, that wraps up my tour.